What's up? My name is Ken Dumbo, the MC with the sauce. Don't forget to subscribe to J. Cool.
One life was lost. Today, the Inspector General of Police and other, law enforcement agencies did visit the place. The president, through one of his, assistants there at State House, issued a message, a statement today with regards to that. But let's put context to this. When you read the press statement from State House today, of course, there's been condemnation of what happened from State House, and also commitment to end hooliganism and illegal mining. But one would ask you, Mr. Bwalya, that the president in opposition met this group of youths, Jerabos, illegal miners as they call them, and promised them a structured approach, including finding them partners and giving them mining licenses. Why are we still having those copper belt based Zambians who have basically depended for a longer time on small scale mining activity for their survival? 4 years in power, what is the empowerment that was promised to this special group of people?
Thank you. I think it is in order to begin the way we are starting. We're talking about the achievements of the UPND 1 year before the elections. And I think that this matter also falls properly under that context or that subject. The UPND government has done more than any other government before in terms of issuing licenses to small-scale miners. Even yesterday, the Minister of Mines was doing the same. And all this is being done in a structured manner. Because at the end of the day, as you alluded to in that question, at the end of the day, you can't just allow a laissez-faire situation. People need to understand that mining in a country and anywhere, Zambia to be specific, but anywhere, has to be done in a structured way. You have to follow the law, you have to follow safety standards, and you can't just go to somebody else's mine. A company has got a license to mine, let's say for instance KCM, and then you say, we also are Zambians, we want to benefit from our resources, and you begin to do mining illegally under their site. It's not possible. I remember two weeks, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 weeks ago, KCM was complaining about what was happening in some of those places in Chingola. So government has a responsibility to ensure that mining companies that are legally mining, KCM for instance, are protected, and that illegal miners, some of them our own people, don't trespass into those areas, for first and foremost to ensure that law and order prevails, but also for safety reasons. Because when we record deaths, such as we saw again in Chingola, at the end of the day, the buck stops at the government, at the president. So now, talking about empowerment, which should be very important, the government has been empowering small-scale miners by issuing them licenses. But what we see in Chingola is a situation where people want to mine within the area that KCM has a license for. That cannot happen.
So what is the point of giving them licenses, but they don't have access to a mining site? Why then can't they also be given a designated area where they can mine. Otherwise, giving them a paper and you have it as statistics that you can present to Parliament or here is useless when the same people are rioting because they are being stopped from, mining.
When I want to start a business, say I want to start a TV station, and I get a license, I may not come here and say, well, I'm also a Zambian. I also want to do this kind of business and I want to do it from here. You have somebody who is legally operating here and they have to be left alone. The government, using appropriate, relevant security wings, as to make sure that you as a license and this is your area of operation, you go about your business without being disturbed by anybody.
Tell me.
So when we talk about those who may be getting licenses and then they don't know where to operate from, that's not what the government is doing. What the government has been doing is to give licenses to those small-scale miners who have got a place of their own where they want to do mining. Talk about, for instance, the gold mining that has been happening in Northwestern Province, where there is no one who can claim that land.
But you went and dispersed them through the police. You see, you are calling them illegal miners. No one owns that gold mine in Northwestern, because we are saying in Chingola, KCM owns the place.
Yes, please.
In Northwestern Province, no one owns that land, and they were there mining, but you still went and sent police to disperse them, and we lost lives. So where else are they going to mine? Because even there is police guarding. And you are saying in Chingola it's because KCM owns the place. There is a class case. There is a class case in Kanyelele, in Mpika. No one owns that mine, but you've deployed police. So where will you allow these people you're giving licenses to go and mine?
So if no one owns the land, you have done exploration, you have applied for a license, that license will specify where you're supposed to do your mining. If the police would show up and ask you to leave, it means you don't have a license. If you have a license, then it's not for that specific piece of land. Things are as simple as that. At the end of the day, yes, we do agree that our people want the government to move at supersonic speed to fulfill the promises that were made. Some of them on issues of empowerment, ensuring that some of our people who want to do mining in the manner some of them has been doing it, it's regularized, they're given licenses and so on. It's not as simple as that. The government has done what it could have done, and more is being done to give licenses, as I said, to ensure that this mining is being done in an orderly manner. To a point where government now is even coming up with a deal room, where some of our people may have licenses already, and now they want to partner with an investor. It could be a local or even a foreign investor, that they are assisted to ensure that they have a good deal where they can benefit, and not a situation where an investor seems to benefit more because of lack of capacity on the part of our people to have negotiated terms that would be favorable to them as well. That is how far government is going.
Now, that is a little bit rhetorical in the sense that was what was promised. This is 4 years down the line. Do you have even just one classic example you can give where the government has facilitated a partnership between a small-scale miner and an investor, and they're working, and there is no one interfering? Because that is the desired goal. But when you perhaps continue to say government is planning and is trying to do this, and why hasn't this been done? Even just one case or two cases where you can point as empirical evidence to say this one and that one, we've helped them to partner with this investor. He had a piece of land, he had a piece of mining license. this one had money, and look at their results. Do you have anything that you can, point to in this regard?
The point I was making is that government has realized through Ministry of Mines in this particular case, where some of our people who have licenses and are partnering or have partnered with investors, local or foreign, didn't seem to get a good deal. So what government is now planning, this is in the pipeline, is to come up with a deal room where government will help to facilitate such kind of partnership, so that our people, some of them who may not have the capacity to ensure that they get a fair deal, are assisted. That's the point. And everything that is done needs to be planned.
Right.
You plan, and then you execute the plan. The issue of issuing licenses was planned, and hundreds are being given those licenses. So government will be in order to call for patience on the part specifically for those miners, illegal miners in Chingola. And we shouldn't apologize for calling somebody an illegal miner.
What if they have a license?
Then they are not illegal. Then they are not illegal. Because I've heard some people seemingly taking offense when you talk about illegal miners. Illegal miners is not synonymous with a small-scale miner. Here we are talking about somebody who doesn't have a license, or indeed they have a license, but they want to go and do mining in a place that is not theirs, that they have not acquired to do mining within that area.
Maybe you need to provide a bit of clarity on this particular matter before we move away, because we understand that site, that's a Kasenseli mine, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They were at some point allowed to go and start mining. Where did the contra instruction arise from for them to be told to move away? Because that is what disturbed them. Remember, they were not going there. They were not accessing that site. And from what we understand, government gave them permission to go and commence mining. And then later on, they were told, can you move away? Can you stop? And that is what triggered yesterday's riots and looting. So where did this contradiction came from? Because they just didn't find themselves at the mining site.
The contradiction that is at stake here is that people want to do mining illegally. That contradicts the law. That contradicts our policies in terms of mining in this country. I'm not aware about those developments, who could have told who to go back and whether that position was changed. I'm not aware about that. I'm not even competent as such to comment on it. But I want to believe that competent people, including the Minister of Mines, our government officials on the Copper Belt, the Copper Belt Minister, would be more competent to explain the specifics that could have happened. But whatever could have triggered what happened yesterday, it cannot be excused, it cannot be justified.
Right.
That was lawlessness, and that's why the president has come out boldly to condemn what happened and to ask the police to ensure that we don't see this happening.
Right.
Those same illegal miners, when eventually they get a license and they need capital, you expect that they will go around or indeed advertise, try to make contacts to get capital. It could be foreign capital, it could be local capital, and so on. Now, when you are creating that environment, those pictures that we are seeing, videos from Chingola, that's not good. That's not good for a country that wants to project, and of course we are, that preferred investment destination.
Right. Let's move on. One of the biggest, perhaps battles, challenges that you face as the United Party for National Development is the issue of power, energy, the deficiency and deficit in continuous supply of power to residential, to business houses and mining houses to a certain extent, including hospitals. This has been one of the biggest challenges, but you had promised to deal with this as priority. The president on record saying in 1 year we have ended load shedding. But I don't know where you stay. Maybe you have a dedicated line. The situation is much worse than you found it when you came into power as UPND. What's happening? What happened to ending of load shedding in 1 year? We are discussing achievements here.
Yes.
And one would have thought ending load shedding would have been a huge milestone and achievement, a campaign ticket. But it's going to be a thorny issue for your campaigns going forward because it's a promise broken.
You asked me where I live. I live in State Lodge. We have had power for the last few weeks, throughout, for the last few weeks. But I'll tell you that my incubator remains shut. We have not been using it for months, from I think late last year, because of the same problem of power. And many people are in that situation. Clearly, where we live, the improvement can be seen.
Where Bwanas live?
A few weeks ago,
where your Bwanas live, the improvement can be seen.
There's no place, I think, in this country that is exclusively for people you may want to to call Bwanas. I go to State Lodge Catholic Church. It's a center. The last time they asked me to bring a standby generator in case there wouldn't be power and then the guitars cannot be played was, I think, a month ago, a month and a half ago. So we've had that problem. I lived in Katuba doing some work there. April, May, left at the beginning of June. You would have power from about 21 until the following day around 05. Then for a few weeks, we had power sometimes throughout the day, and we thought that was going to continue, but not. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this to clearly indicate that as UPND, we are not saying the power deficit, this challenge that we have had, compounded, made worse by the worst drought that we experienced in living memory, that this problem is still with us.
That's an excuse, Mr. Bwalya. The president refused to use drought as an excuse. He called his predecessor, they don't think. He gave an example of Dubai. He says it does not rain and they do not have darkness, not a single day. Give us an opportunity, us who can think. Brain power. Brain power. That's what he said. So you can't sit here, Mr. Bwalya, and defend the president and the UPND administration and blame drought, overload shedding, you people with brain power.
It is a fact that we had drought. If that were not the case, then maybe people would think that the president has not fulfilled the promise of delivering power or ending load shedding would be justified. But the truth of the matter is that we had drought. We saw it.
Even then, we had
children.
Even when your party was in opposition, in fact, you were with PF at the time.
Yes.
We still had drought. The load shedding was bearable.
Except when that statement could have been made, I'm not too sure if it was made. When it could have been made, I was serving in Australia as High Commissioner because I left Zambia in 2018, somewhere around.
You are very familiar with this statement. You are very well familiar with it.
Yes.
I believe so.
Yes, I am.
So you have failed to end load shedding, which was your promise.
Now, the term you have failed would be justified to be used if nothing is being done, and the government has said there's nothing we can do, we have failed to resolve this problem.
You have failed to stop exporting power.
So before we come to exporting power, let's talk about creating the capacity to generate more power.
Before you create capacity, Father Bwalya, Mr. Bwalya, before you generate capacity to create capacity to generate more power, you have a bird in hand. Why are you exporting? Before you create this capacity, you have this. Why don't you just stop exporting and then you continue creating capacity? The priority there is misplaced.
There is this fallacy, the notion that the reason we're having, and many people who use this argument actually contradict themselves clearly contradict themselves. The notion that the reason we are having power blackouts, load shedding, is because this government is exporting power. That is not correct. We need to agree as Zambians that that is not the reason.
Can you tell the Zambian people that you're
just a minute?
No, you are saying it's not the point.
Just a
because
minute.
I think you are misinforming the nation.
Just a minute.
Are we not exporting power?
Just a minute.
Are we not exporting power?
I'll repeat myself.
No. Before you repeat yourself, are we not exporting power?
Because I've not said in that statement we are not exporting power.
So are we exporting power?
So let me repeat myself. It is a fallacy. It is wrong to say the reason we are having load shedding in Zambia today is because we are exporting power. We are exporting far less than was being exported under.
I really want you to stop making comparisons.
There's nothing wrong about
No. I want you to stop making comparisons.
And you led by example.
Tell your own story.
And you led by example.
Tell your own story. Are
Yes.
we exporting power or not? We are.
Power. We are exporting power.
We are from celebrating 100 megawatts in Chisamba from solar. That
Yes.
is going to make a difference. How many megawatts are we exporting? It's more than 100 megawatts we are celebrating. If we crowd back that power, don't you think it will make a difference?
I'm repeating that the reason we are having power blackouts, the reason we have power deficit is not because power is being exported.
Assuming we stopped exporting, wouldn't that make a difference?
Even if we stopped exporting power, we will still not end load shedding. That's why I was saying that even under the previous government, the PF, we were exporting power.
Granted, the load shedding,
and we're exporting more.
Maximum load shedding hours was between 4 and 8 hours.
4 and 8 hours.
Exactly.
So
which is bearable.
So those who are arguing that if only we stopped exporting power, this problem of load shedding will end. Why is it that without the drought
I think
that we experienced, PF failed to stop load shedding, which was only, from what you are saying, about 4 hours or 8 hours in a day? Why didn't they stop exporting power and ended load shedding immediately? Why?
I think that the point is this. The point is this. They've experienced load shedding. I mean, they experienced drought. Under your administration, we have experienced drought.
The worst drought in living memory.
Your hours of load shedding are excruciatingly longer. And in fact, you give people power at unproductive hours. I'll give you an example. In most places, including where I live, we get power maybe at about 5 p.m. and power goes at midnight. The rest of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 productive hours, you can't do anything. So why would you give people power when they're sleeping? So the PF, they had even a cycle where they give you 4 hours?
Are we going to be comparing? That's why what I call leading by example.
Eh,
That's fine. That's fine, because I also will be doing the same.
I'm just
That's
picking
fine.
from where
Yes.
from where you left off, because
Yes,
you
yes.
still gave
Which is
them,
okay, which is okay.
You still gave them as an example.
Yes, yes, which is okay.
So you have failed to emulate perhaps even the style of split, maybe because you signed more export agreements.
I want to remind those who may not, or to inform those who may not have known, that I also served as ZESCO board chairperson. Not for a long time, but enough to have learned 1 or 2 things. We are having load shedding not because Zambia is exporting power. That's a political gimmick aimed at projecting the government as starving its own children and feeding the neighbor's children, which is not correct. It's not correct. Power was being sold during the time of PF, during the time I was board chairperson for ZESCO. The government was selling power to the DRC, to Botswana sometimes, to Namibia, and so on. And these agreements, some of them are binding. The same way Zambia would sign a binding agreement with Zimbabwe, for argument's sake, or South Africa, or Mozambique for power. And when they have a crisis in that country, power shortage, they cannot cancel all those contracts. Some of those contracts cannot. That's what I'm telling you.
That's not true.
Some of those contracts are binding.
Mr. Bwalya, that's not true. There is no contract that is not binding. Let's tell you this. You know force majeure.
Yes, yes.
It's an act of God.
That's why I've made a distinction. That's why I've made a distinction. Because let me explain this. Let me explain this. When we have a serious crisis and we don't have enough power, South Africa has enough power, we go to them. We enter into an agreement. Should they have a problem, depending on the type of agreement that we signed, some of those agreements may be cancelled, to use a simple term, and power called back, but there will be others that cannot, for a simple reason that when Zambia doesn't have that power, it can be a very, very big problem that can even have an impact on national security. So these countries do agree amongst themselves. So when you have a problem such as we have a problem now, you can reduce the amount of power that you are giving to Namibia, that you are giving to
the Southern
DRC,
Power Pool.
or indeed,
this is the Southern Power Pool.
Yes, that interconnector.
Yes,
and you can recall part of that power or all that power depending on the nature of agreement that you had. Because when you just cancel the
I think you are making a political explanation. You are saying the reason we are facing power critical shortage is because of the drought. That falls squarely within the force majeure. You cannot justify that because we have a Southern Power Pool agreement, we cannot do this. You were serving in this position when Namibia official came, met the vice president and thanked, here in Zambia, thanked the vice president for not stopping to send power, even though Namibia knows that Zambians are suffering. He said it during an official visit before the cameras. Wasn't that really a shocker? That even a foreign government knew that you are starving your own people?
I need to verify. I think when we start getting calls, I should be able to verify how much power we are sending we are selling to Namibia. It's little power that would not make a difference in terms of the deficit that we have. And the agreement that we have is in such a manner that you cannot cancel that agreement. Should Zambia find, just a minute, should Zambia find itself in a similar situation, the kind of situation that we are worse than this, those that will have had similar agreements with us, they cannot stop giving us power or selling us
let's just agree.
Power.
Let's just agree.
Because just a minute. Because at the end of the day, you need power for vital installations, including hospitals. So if we had a crisis, if we had a huge crisis, and we can only sustain those institutions by importing power.
I think the question for most Zambian people, on whose behalf I'm asking you, is that when are we ever going to have a government that takes responsibility for failure to deliver on its promises? If you say, when I come in power, I'll end load shedding, don't give me excuses when you fail to deliver. Can you confirm that you have failed on this promise? You said we will end it. Whether there is drought or no drought, we have brain power enough to create interventions that will end drought. You have a year before an election. You cannot be going back on your promises. Are you not able to take ownership that we promised, but we are sorry we have not delivered? Is it difficult to take ownership?
What Zambians don't like is manufacturing excuses.
Like you are doing.
That Zambians will not take. But Zambians live here, they know what has been happening,
and they know what you promised.
They know how their maize
They know
withered.
what you promised.
They know how their boreholes, the water tables went
you lied to
down.
Them. Your government.
They know how their cows,
your government,
animals died because of drought.
So your government.
So you let me finish.
No, I mean, people have heard what you are saying.
So Zambians know, they were here, they experienced it. Their fields, the maize withered.
So you took advantage of the poor people to make them believe that you are bringing a super solution. And now when you are there, you say, no, it is drought. But they had drought, even them. Even then when you were in opposition, they had drought. And you said, forget about drought. We will make Zambia look like Dubai. This is on record. So you can't come and change midstream and say it was because of drought. You lied to the Zambian people to get a vote?
So you are saying that even before this drought we had last year, the West in living memory, we had similar droughts before?
We had a drought.
Because a drought is one. So did we have drought all those years? I don't believe. We had partial droughts, which compounded the problem of the water levels in the Kariba when the big one came.
Let's move on. I think
when the big one came.
Let's move on.
So Zambians are aware.
All I wanted to know is whether or not your government can take responsibility that yes, you acknowledge there was a drought, but also it does not take away the fact that you made a promise that said, forget about the drought.
I'll tell you, or I will describe. Let me answer that question.
So that is lying to the Zambian people.
The question of taking responsibility. Let me answer that question. I'll tell you how a leader, a president who takes responsibility looks like. You would see him, that is the president, at State House, calling all the players in the energy sector, sharing ideas, trying to ensure that we resolve this problem as quickly as possible. You see that president. That is a leader that takes responsibility. You see somebody who takes responsibility through initiatives, such as the presidential initiative that we have to have 1,000 of solar power, solar generated power. And part of it is what we saw in Chisamba, that 100 megawatts. That is how a president who takes responsibility looks like. So Zambia as a president that takes responsibility. To take responsibility means to resolve a problem when you promised to resolve the problem. And this government is working on that. And the signs are there. One of the things and I know this even from my experience as ZESCO board chairperson, one of the biggest problems we've had in this country is that in the previous years, we have failed to attract private power producers. The reason, simple, that the tariffs, contrary to what people may be made to believe, the tariffs in this country are low. And that has not been attractive to independent power producers. And these power producers, the independent power producers, when they come into Zambia, they have to generate that power and sell it to ZESCO, because ZESCO has the distribution network. Now, if ZESCO is going to be selling power to you and me, for argument's sake, for at 1 kwacha per unit, but this independent power producer is spending 5 kwacha to produce a unit, it means that somebody has to put in to subsidize that power heavily.
Do you know how the Tsamba 100 megawatts are being distributed? Is it being given to ZESCO? Is it ZESCO that is buying?
At the end of the day, it is ZESCO that has the distribution network.
But you are stripping ZESCO. Transmission and generation, so you can't say it's ZESCO. You are stripping and selling them in piecemeal. So don't hide in that, because you are already on one hand.
I'm just stating a fact.
No, but on one hand you are stripping
these cables
ZESCO.
we see, these cables and poles that we see coming to our homes,
you are stripping ZESCO.
They belong to ZESCO.
No, you are stripping ZESCO. You want ZESCO to only remain with what?
If
generation or transmission?
If
which one do you want to live with ZESCO?
If a country evaluates the performance of such a utility company and decides to unbundle it, that's another issue.
Yeah, but then,
me, I'm stating a fact.
Don't say that
the transmission line is owned by ZESCO. So whoever comes into this country, or Zambians that want to produce power, at the end of the day, they have to rely on the ZESCO infrastructure.
So no one should take transmission away from ZESCO. Is that what you are submitting?
That's not the point I'm making.
Is that your government policy? Because contrary to what you are submitting, you probably want ZESCO to remain with the overhead of generating. Transmission, you want to sell it to someone else. Is that not the new policy?
If that would make ZESCO effective, that is a subject or an undertaking that can be done. But the fact I'm stating is that the infrastructure, as we speak, belongs to ZESCO. When an independent power producer comes in, they produce power, including Mamba and so on, they cannot sell that power to you directly. It has to go through the infrastructure of ZESCO. That's where the issue of ZESCO buying that power and then selling it to you and me comes in.
I hope that's what's happening in reality.
There are not two ways about it. Unless my neighbor is generating power, maybe using solar, and we use a cable for me to uplift that power into my house, maybe.
What I am saying is, you are not empowering ZESCO to remain a solid whole company as it has been. If you want to say there will be more power producers that will generate power and ZESCO will be buying and distributing, that is empowering ZESCO. But already your policy wants to strip ZESCO. Transmission should be taken by someone else. Generation should remain maybe with ZESCO. You are not empowering ZESCO. If you think by creating this capacity of other independent power producers feeding into ZESCO who empower ZESCO, then leave it as is, because then you are creating a solution. Don't you think so?
I'm talking about independent power producers. These would be companies independent of ZESCO. And that's why even the latest, I think it should be in Luapula, if I'm not mistaken, Luapula or somewhere in northern province, where a company has come in, they would be producing power. I can't have it on the top of my head. That company has already signed an agreement with ZESCO.
Tell me, Mr. Bwalya, will all of this, the structural changes to ZESCO, will they end load shedding? Because at the end of the day, what we're discussing is load shedding. The structural changes that your government is implementing, will that improve?
All these things, including the 1,000 megawatts of solar power, the presidential initiative, all these initiatives, including making the tariffs attractive to attract as many independent power producers as possible, including the policy of encouraging people to have to generate power on their rooftops through the policy where you and I can sell power to ZESCO that we generate, and so on. All these initiatives, including helping Mamba Coraries to get the money that they needed for the expansion, all these initiatives are aimed at addressing the problem of power.
Let's move on. Your government was voted on many, ticket promises, and one of which was to be a very democratic government, supporting human rights, supporting, things like constitutional reforms that are consultative and agreed upon by all the stakeholders. And I recall President Hichilema in opposition on one radio station and several other interviews saying, tell PF that the constitution is not theirs. They don't own the constitution. The constitution belongs to the Zambian people. Let them stop Bill 10. The president has come out all guns blazing, pushing Bill 7, which was rejected by the church, by the citizens, by Lars, by everybody except him and his government, your government, the UPND government. So what has changed? Now the constitution belongs to the UPND, that all the people were speaking.
When you talked about the president championing Bill 10, was it a slip of the tongue, or you mean?
When the PF was championing Bill 10,
yes,
the president in opposition said the constitution does not belong to the PF. It belongs to the people.
And he was right.
And he was right.
Yes.
So how is he wrong now that he's in power? Now suddenly the constitution must belong to him and his administration. People rejected the mode of constitutional proposals. It's not the executive to propose what should be changed. It must come from the people to say, we are finding problems there, we are proposing this. Government should just facilitate.
I've listened to the president, I've listened to the Minister of Justice, I've listened to the Chief Government Spokesperson, various senior UPND members. I've not heard any one of them saying that we need to change the preamble of the Constitution so that it can begin to say...
I didn't talk about the preamble.
I'm making a point. So that it can say, I, HH, or we, UPND, give the Zambian people a constitution. The point I'm trying to make is that there is no UPND official, let alone the president, who has changed who owns the constitution. That remains the same. The constitution belongs to the people. The people should be consulted. However,
the people should be consulted?
However, when you come to consultation, some may argue you need to go this far. We as UPND are saying only matters that we have in Bill 13. These are matters. Bill 7, sorry, not Bill 13. Bill 13 is the lands and the matters that are in this bill are matters where there has been consensus, except for those administrative ones, like, for instance, to reduce the years of experience for one to be appointed as secretary to the cabinet and so on. But almost the rest of them are all regarding issues where we have had consensus.
People, no, there was no
And that is-
consensus.
just a minute.
There was no, you know this.
Just a minute.
You know this.
Just a minute. Just a minute. If we didn't have consensus on the issue of ending by-elections, we would still have a law the law as it was before, where if a president dies in office, you have an election.
You're talking about 26 amendment, correct?
I'm telling you where we are coming from.
Yes. No, we are talking about Bill 7
Yes.
and later on Bill 13.
Yes.
And my question is...
Let's first deal with Bill 7. Let's
let's deal with them together.
Fine.
Because the approach is the same. You don't seem to be a listening government. You claim to be a listening government, but you want to bulldoze your way. The church have said no. The laws have said no. NGOs have said no. The people you are claiming need to be consulted said no. You still had to push it to Parliament. It had to take a day before the court ruling, constitutional court ruling, over this for a pronouncement to defer to be made. Why did you have to waste so much meager resources to sponsor the Minister of Justice hopping around the country, being the only one who knows who she's going to meet, and you say we consulted?
So, if we did not agree as Zambians, I've made a point. There is no way we would have changed the law to ensure that when a president dies in office, you don't have a by-election, although at presidential level it's not called a by-election.
Please, Mr. Bwalya.
I'm making a point.
That is already agreed upon by the people. I want you to address...
I'm making a point.
You are not taking responsibility.
I'm making a point, and when you are making a point, for that point to be made, you need to explain.
No, you can't hide in a legitimate process. You cannot hide an illegitimate process behind a legitimate process. What you are referring to
I'm trying to make
a legitimate process. Your process, the Constitutional Code has called it a nullity. And yet the president is still insisting we have deferred. Is he in order, as the parliamentarians would say, is he in order to overlook what the highest court of the land says about this? It's a nullity. Why must the president continue saying we have deferred it? It has not been deferred. It's a nullity. It's now and void. It's illegal.
So I was saying that almost all those issues, the proposed amendments in Bill 7, there has been an agreement, consensus. I was giving the background now. How, as Zambians, we agreed
about Bill 7.
Just a minute.
About Bill 7,
just
you mean?
a minute. Yes, I'm talking about some of the proposals in Bill 7.
No.
How we, as Zambians, agreed that we needed to stop by-elections and thereby stop avoidable wastage of public funds. One of the things that was done was to stop presidential elections, as I said, when a president dies in office. That is, all this is part of this enterprise.
Are you
That's
aware?
why, just a minute. That's why, for instance, when the law came out now in 2016 constitution, that when a candidate withdraws from an election, the ECZ needs to call for fresh nominations. Zambians said, no. This is also not a good thing. Some NGOs went to court, but the court ruled only as far as stopping calling for fresh nominations if it's an independent candidate.
I really would appreciate if you can address the matter at hand.
That's what I'm addressing.
No, you're not. You're taking us back into history over matters that have no bearing with Bill 7.
They have a bearing on Bill 7 because in Bill 7, we have a proposal to stop this practice, the law as it is, for ECZ to call for fresh nominations when a candidate sponsored by a political party, of course, even independents, although that was dealt with by the court earlier,
Who did you consult?
These have been there in the report.
So why?
And the Zambians
so why? Tell me, if you are saying Zambians, why did they reject Bill 7? Tell me. If they were agreeable, why did they reject it?
In this country, whenever a government initiates amending the constitution.
Thank you.
Because
Government. And government is not supposed to initiate. That's where the problem is.
So who initiates?
The government should be a facilitator. Perhaps what the president should have done.
Maybe we should agree on the meaning of the word initiate.
Yes, appoint an independent constitutional review commission or something.
And how does that contradict the term initiate? It doesn't.
Yeah, well, they initiate and leave it at that. Let them now come back to give a report. What did the president do? He was in Kasama, you are aware.
I was there.
You were there.
In Kasama.
He said the youths and the women have agreed. And everyone said which women and which youth. Where did he meet them? That is the mistake. He repeated the same in Mongo. What the president should have done is to say, I've appointed Mr. Bwalya and that one to go and look at the constitution and convene consultative processes. Let that process bring a report to the president. Then the president would have drawn a mandate from that report to say the Zambian people have said. But not for him to go and stand on a podium and say the Zambian people have said. Which Zambian? It is him who initiated this process, and that's where the problem is.
And when the executive initiates amending the constitution, they are not doing anything illegal.
They didn't follow the prescribed process of the law.
They are not doing anything
In
illegal.
fact, if you notice, people have said they are not averse to constitutional amendment. They are averse to the process used. Even some of the contents you are talking about, people didn't oppose. They said,
That's what I mean by saying there is consensus.
There is no consensus on the process.
No, I'm not saying there is consensus on the process. What I was saying is that there has been consensus on the proposals. And you just said the people don't have a problem with the proposals. That's why some members of the opposition, when they realized, after having lied, that the president wanted to remove 50% plus one, wanted to remove a vice president as a running mate, wanted to make himself life president. When Bill 7 came, and they were caught napping because none of such proposals were in there. Now they changed goalposts.
The question I really want to ask you is this. Do you think constitutional amendment, 1 year to an election, do you think Bill 13, 1 year to an election, are these matters that you should be focusing on when an economy is performing so badly? And why would you want to be so fixated about changing the law at all costs?
Now, when you include Bill 13 against the backdrop of many people that you, the media, are quoting, who are claiming that we cannot change the constitution, we cannot amend the constitution because we have an election next year, it will advantage the ruling party, to advantage the UPND. From that background, how does Bill 13 come in? What should be a problem? Is it also going to advantage the UPND? What is the bearing on the election? I see no bearing whatsoever.
What is the motivation? Is it a showstopper that you will not be in government if you didn't introduce Bill 7? Will you cease to be a government?
I don't think so.
Is there a crisis it is addressing?
I don't think so.
Exactly.
I don't think so.
And those are the things that people are saying, what is motivating you to do some of these? Because look, how do you take away the rights that are given to, say, the Lands Tribunal and say, no, the Chief Registrar will now be cancelling? Where do titles come from? They come from there. And then you still want to give the same guy who presides over the issuance to be cancelling. Don't you see that these things are people are asking, how are you drawing these conclusions that are not steeped in any consultative process and on face value?
Any attempt or indeed a process to amend the law is motivated by a need to address a certain problem, to cure some problem somewhere. But when finally the bill comes out, why does it come to Parliament to be discussed? Because that's where the people are. That's where the people are. Members of parliament represent the people. And they debate. Even the committee, that's where the people are. Even at committee stage.
I think government has got advisors.
Yes.
Including the chief legal advisor to government. I think it shouldn't be embarrassing the president over some of these issues.
You see, one thing we should never forget is that some of the amendments that we've had, even on issues of land, were heavily opposed, but they went through. And later on, some of such amendments, people begin to see the wisdom behind. Bill 13 has been deferred.
Because there was an outcry.
Now.
There was an outcry.
Now. This is the issue. This is the issue. When you are trying to change the law, and there is an outcry, and you defer the law for further discussion, what is the problem?
There is a problem.
What is the problem?
There is a problem in the sense that you, for instance, as an advisor to the president, you should already have said, sir, there is something wrong here if we go this way and that way. That's why he's surrounded by a personal legal advisor and chief legal government advisor. If they are not seeing that these things are, it shouldn't take the outcry of the people for a process to be called fraud. Then the people were earning money
that is
to
Bill 13, you mean?
Even Bill 7. Why?
Being called a fraud?
Yes.
I'm not aware about that.
I mean, if the Constitutional Court can call it null and void, what is it?
That's Bill 13?
No, I'm talking about, we're discussing both.
Yeah, but you mentioned Bill 13. The point I want to make is this. When you say the advisors of the president and so on should have seen this and so on, you make it sound as if this law, Bill 13, the bill, sorry, not the law, the bill, Bill 13, is a bad law.
It is a bad law.
Just a minute. It will be a proposed bad law. And everyone has agreed to that extent.
Except the executive.
Just a minute, which is not the case. Here you have a proposed bill, and the people have divergent views. Those who are arguing to the contrary have got their reasons. Those who are opposing this proposal have got their reasons. And you sit down as a country.
I think.
And where do you sit down as a country? It's in parliament.
Do you know why people are opposing? First of all, just the other day, yesterday in fact, there was another piece of legislation that went through to third reading. Everyone is in support. Why? Because there are no contentious issues. So it's not that people are just opposing anyhow. They are sensing danger, and more so that perhaps they feel you have set a bad precedent with the cyber laws. First of all, we are withdrawing them from parliament for consultation. Civil society made the input, and everybody made the input. What was back on the floor of the House is exactly what they had rejected. How can people trust you that when you say, no, Bill 7 has got nothing to do with an election, and yet you have demonstrated that you could be treacherous with the way you did on the cyber security laws?
I'm not too sure how you are connecting now the issue of how the amending the cyber security law came about and Bill 7. We need to agree that in Bill 7, there is nothing suspicious in that law.
There is everything.
If some people, just a minute, if some people strongly feel that the person to qualify, a civil servant to qualify to be appointed as secretary to the cabinet, they need to have 10 years experience. They need to listen to the genesis of that proposal.
I think you're being selective, but we will have to move on.
As an example,
we have to move on.
Because the others, you can't even argue.
I am surprised that you are saying it's not contentious. Yet, Bill 7 was proposing 55 new constituencies. Now tell me, where was the delimitation report? Who has seen it? Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
You see,
Have you? No. Answer me. The Zambian people are watching.
When
Did you see the delimitation report, which suggested which new constituencies?
So if I produce that report, that I've seen it was prepared by ECZ, would that end the argument?
The question.
It won't, because what people are saying, those who are supporting, they are quoting the Constitution.
Let's move on, Mr.
Those
Bwalya.
who are against delimitation are
let's
saying, let's finish this one. The people who are against delimitation, many of them politicians, those who are opposing it, what they are saying is that this is going to advantage the UPND. Now, maybe they saw the report that was done when PF was in government. The report that was done in terms of which constituencies are too big and need to be cut.
But that's
maybe
the premise. But that's the
yes.
premise.
So let me
that's
delve
the
into
premise.
this.
That's the premise. So why was it a secret that the ECZ failed to this day to say this is the delimitation report? Why did they fail? Why should it be a secret?
The report that was done when PF was in government, I think that should have been 2019, by ECZ, was not a secret. That's how come you and I know how many constituencies were proposed even at that time.
So in this respect, that's why I'm saying let's move on, because we're just going round the circles. The truth of the matter is it was a very contentious bill.
I agree with you, because when you go around the circles, you can get dizzy and collapse. I agree with you.
Government says the ZAMSA forensic report is not for public consumption. Who is it for? And in any case, today, the chairperson for Anti-Corruption Commission, Judge Amaondo, said we can't name the ministers that we are investigating. And I would like to believe and assume they are contained, some of them, in this forensic report. Is this how your government is going to be protecting those that it is investigating? Because if it is an opposition leader, the SEC does not say we can't name them. They will just say we're investigating this member of parliament or that one businessman, and that. It's all about reputation of the minister in question and the member of parliament in question or a businessman in question. Where are these double standards coming from?
Yeah, since the topic of the subject matter of this program is the achievements of the UPND, I'll still use that mirror.
Yes, it's a fight against corruption.
Yes. And when I use that mirror, I see a great achievement in terms of strengthening institutions that are charged with the responsibility to fight corruption. Hence, they're even coming out and openly saying they're investigating some ministers. I see in this mirror that you have given me yourself the achievements of the UPND. Strengthening the law to ensure that those who steal public funds and engage in corruption are made to account. So I don't see where the problem is in this case. The SEC made that announcement, those announcements.
Why are they applying double standards? If it's you they're investigating, they'll tell us. They'll call a press conference.
When the SEC.
But if it's a minister, that's where if you are saying you have scored and you're fighting corruption, and yet SEC says we can't name, somehow it doesn't add up. If they are independent, if they are investigating, if they are really working to make sure the UPND government look good in terms of fighting corruption, no minister.
The UPND is not aiming to look good in terms of
they must look good. They promised.
Let me qualify. The UPND has no agenda of looking good in terms of fighting corruption, but just to do the job. Because when you fight corruption, you don't look good, because the corrupt will not like you.
The ministers they are failing to name are serving in this government.
So
they are corrupt ministers, and so your government.
No, we cannot call them corrupt ministers.
Well, they are being investigated.
Because if you call them corrupt ministers,
yes.
it means that you have already found them guilty.
I think the very fact that they are being shielded from being named, we will never know who they are. Perhaps someone will just say, drop the files, drop the file. It will dent our image as a government.
If those investigations conclude that there was no wrongdoing that happened, of course, we may not know who was being investigated as the public. Now, you gave the example of saying that if I'm being investigated by SEC, they will go and announce that we are investigating Frank Bwalya. I'm not too sure if it works exactly like that.
It does work like that.
Now, let me explain what I mean by that. The SEC can investigate one Frank Bwalya, one Pastor Kennedy Mambwe, without the public knowing, and only reading in the papers or even on social media that Frank Bwalya has been summoned in connection with this. So I don't think whenever SEC is investigating an individual or something that concerns certain individuals, they call a press conference and they say we are investigating Frank Bwalya for this and that. I don't think they operate like that. But sometimes depending on the nature of what they're investigating, they may want to say that.
I mean,
otherwise, logically,
Zamsa is a scandal. Everyone knows. Zamsa is a scandal. It has even cost us aid from the US. You still have a minister being investigated, serving, after all we know about Zamsa.
I'm not too sure if the ministers that are being investigated include the Minister of Health, and it is something to do with issues of medicines over which some donor aid could have been withheld. I'm not too sure about that. So I may not be competent to comment on that. In terms of the report being for public consumption, this was a forensic audit. Zambian people know very well that there is no reason whatsoever not to trust President Hakainde Hichilema in terms of commitment to ensure that whoever is found wanting, mentioned in that report, and law investigative wings doing their part and finding credible evidence to bring such people to court, that it will be done.
We wait. I think the Zambian people, we shall wait to see that happen.
We don't want, my brother, we don't want to have a situation where the president says whoever will be found wanting in this Zamsa saga would be made to account. And then people are saying, no, it will not happen. Why not wait until it has not happened?
Well, we shall wait and see that. Let's talk about the performance of the economy. The Minister of Finance says the economy is improving, the inflation is coming down. But
33, I think now?
I'm not too sure exactly what number it has
13,
come
sorry.
down to.
Sorry, not 33, 13.
Okay. He has announced that the IMF has signaled, approval of another tranche, another loan about $184 million. On the other hand, you have a startling report from the Financial Intelligence Center, which says in 1 year alone, we have experienced a least outflow of cash from Zambia to the tune of $3.5 million, leaving the country, an economy that is asking IMF. What's happening? That we should always be looking to IMF, and the government is failing to plug these holes. We are too fragile to be losing that kind of money. Where is the zeal? Who is being investigated for all of those things? Who is being made to answer for all of those? Because clearly there is a problem somewhere.
So when I use that mirror you have given me, the mirror of achievements of the UPND, of course I smile as a member of the UPND, and Zambians smile that we have a government in place, we have a president that is doing well, that is working very hard to fix the economy. And that results are being seen. You mentioned inflation. I don't want to dwell so much on inflation.
Let's talk about the $3.5 million.
Yes, we'll come to
Who
that.
is stealing?
Yes, we'll come
Who
to
is
that.
stealing this money from a fragile economy?
We'll come to that.
And are you not feeling concerned that this is happening under your watch?
We'll come to that. So that mirror, I see a government that is fixing the economy. I see a government that is making inflation to go down because of prices going down.
Which prices, by the way? Which prices have gone down? Has your mealie meal gone down?
If you talk about mealie meal,
has your sugar gone down? Has your cooking oil gone down? So tell me, how can inflation go down but prices are still going up?
Are you disputing the fact that inflation
no,
has
I am
dropped?
just trying to understand the economics being applied here.
Because if there's somebody who should be even better informed about what we have been informed as the cause or what has triggered this drop in the inflation, it's yourselves. We rely on you in terms of transmission of information for us to be educated and to be informed.
You are a spokesperson for the president, in fact, under the umbrella of the president, for that matter. So, I mean, you can justify and tell the Zambian people that inflation has dropped.
You described me as one of the many spokespersons.
The M23, they call you.
No, not the M23. The millions of Zambians.
No, I'm talking about the appointed who draw a salary from the government. M23.
I don't draw a salary from the government. I don't even draw a salary from the party.
From the ruling party?
I don't.
You are not working for pro bono.
I'm telling you, I don't draw a salary. I'm not on any allowance. I'm saying this publicly. You can check it.
Now that you have gone personal, why are they starving you? Because you are working.
I don't know what you mean by why are they starving you. It's not possible for any political party. It's not possible. And it has never happened in this country that members of a political party, the cadres and so on, are on the payroll. It's not possible. I serve the party.
I'll tell you this. You know this. You were in the PF. At Secretariat, everyone who works in Secretariat draws a salary from the party.
At the Secretariat under PF, I had an office there as chairperson for information and publicity, a member of the Central Committee. I never had a salary, not even an allowance. That's the truth.
You were benefiting from the power of incumbents anyway.
That's the truth.
You were benefiting even now.
So it's not something unusual.
Even now you are benefiting from the power of
it.
We are talking about.
I'm not an employee of the party.
Let's not reduce this to you. Let's talk about 3.5 million.
And I'm not guilty for that.
3.5 million that has left the country, and FIC has presented the report for all Zambians to interrogate it. Who is accountable for that? And why this is not the first time. Year in, year out, for the past 4 years, there is actually incremental loss of the quantum of money leaving the country, and yet we are begging IMF, if only we could stop the outflow of this money. We don't need IMF. But why are you not addressing this as government? You are talking about 13% inflation drop. Zambians don't want to eat inflation. They want to know that the economy is improving.
As you know, public sector corruption has gone down from the same report. That's an achievement that we see in that mirror you've given me.
What is the saving out of that? What's the saving?
Whether the saving, according to you, is insignificant, whatever, that's an achievement.
Public relations
so now
doesn't work.
Let's come to the money that is alleged to have gone out, and many of them involving, according to that report, multinationals, these corporations and so on. Again, some people want to create the impression that the people who are sending this money out, for lack of to speak in layman's language, stealing the money. It's not, that's not accurate, but allow me to say that.
Why do you think
are politicians.
why do you think a government institution will flag it if it's not a big deal?
No, I'm not saying it's not a big deal.
You should be concerned.
It's just that when you use the term stealing,
as a party in power. I mean, I'm surprised that you are trivializing this.
I'm not.
Oh yes, you are.
I'm not.
You don't seem to be concerned that we are losing this much money.
I have not said this is little money. I've not said this is something Zambians should not worry about. I was about to make a point that the impression should not be created that those who are sending this money out are politicians. The report is very clear.
I didn't say politicians. I said we are losing money as a nation. But who is being made to account for this? First of all, if you are a parent, Father Bwalya, Mr. Bwalya, if you are a parent, and you think yesterday you bought cooking oil, the bottle was full. You come back tomorrow, you find the cooking oil is at the bottom. Won't it bother you that who among my children, and no one has said the politician, but someone in this country is allowing that money to be taken out one way or the other? We have controls, the Bank of Zambia and whoever. No one can pretend that no one sees how much money is going and who is sending it out. At what point must we always wait? Money has already gone, then we read a report. Can't we change the laws, justify where this money is coming from and where it's going? Like it is in China. You can't just move in with money. You have to show where is the invoice, where is what. So why are we 4 years under your watch allowing this incremental loss of millions of dollars? That is the question, not that the politician is stealing. No, that's not the question.
This is another achievement by this government, that the institutions charged with the responsibility to ensure that we deal with these crimes, with this kind of high-level corruption, do their job. And what FIC has done is their job.
To give us reports that money has been stolen.
Just a minute.
And we should clap for them.
Just a minute. That would be, in fact, trivializing that report. That report is not just a paper that is thrown like that.
But this is not the first time they've produced the same report.
That report is the final product of rigorous investigation.
What are you doing as a party in power?
Yes, now coming to that. So when that report is done, we are informed clearly that those red flags that are raised, information is passed on to the next institutions charged with the specific responsibility to investigate further, do arrests, bring people to court and so on. Because FIC doesn't do that. It doesn't have that mandate. And this government is not stopping FIC to do its job because of the commitment to fight corruption, the commitment to ensure that public funds are not stolen.
As a government
not only
in power,
public funds, but that companies that are operating in Zambia do not externalize funds illegally
and who is going to
and
ensure
deprive our people.
Who is going to ensure that? As a government in power, will you always just be waiting for the FIC report? You have read it, oh, sorry, we have lost this much. Shouldn't we be proactive to be closing these loopholes? And that's where I think the question is stemming from. Most Zambian people are saying, but why must we be going to IMF when we have so much resource that is being stolen?
So in other words, the question is what is being done to ensure that we can see an improvement?
Correct.
We've seen an improvement in terms of public sector corruption because of interventions that have been put in place. We don't seem to see the same kind of progress on the other side concerning the money that is externalized. That should be the question.
We are running out of time, and I wish we could pick up, because I have 2 more questions to ask, and I will let you go, Mr. Bwalya. I earlier talked about, you and I discussed the issue of advisory to the president and the executive. And I think most Zambians are now getting worried about the appetite to go and inspect the body. This has got nothing to do with your achievements, but
No, I'll still look at it from that mirror of achievements.
it's a bizarre story, because even the local council here in Lusaka, when they make a publication in the newspaper to say, we want to bury the unclaimed bodies, can the next of kin come and identify? Even at the scene of an accident, the next of kin will go and identify, say, this is ours. The Lungus have identified their own. Your government declared national mourning. Death certificate has been flying around. What is the appetite to go and inspect a body that you are not related to? Yes, he's a former head of state, but he belongs to a family. You declared national mourning because you acknowledged he's dead. You have flaunted his death certificate everywhere. It's part of the evidence. What is motivating your government to go and inspect a body? Now, people are calling it bizarre, perhaps. There's a lot of suspicion that maybe the desire is steeped in witchcraft. And you have read this. I have read this, including someone from Zimbabwe. He's saying, Zambia, you are embarrassing yourselves. What is informing this insatiable appetite to see a dead body of the former president?
When I look at what has happened in that mirror of the achievements of the UPND, I see a government that has provided sober, bold leadership. I see a government that is championing public interest and not narrow partisan interests. I see an achievement in terms of a president that has got so broad shoulders in terms of accepting undue criticism and continuing to focus on the ball.
What is the motivation?
And doing his job. I'm coming to that.
What's the motivation?
I'm coming to
and
that.
As you come to that, I want you to put this into context. The South African president sent our highest delegation, his special envoy, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, to come and confer with our president, to confirm that Mr. Lungu is dead and the family wants to bury him there. Your insistence to go and inspect the body, are you claiming that the South African government connived with the Lungus to fake his death, including sending a high delegation of a special envoy to see the president?
This reminds me, or getting back to one example that you gave, that when the Lusaka City Council or any local authority want to bury unclaimed bodies, they publicize and then the next of kin would go and identify the body. I'm very happy that you qualified that by saying, of course, for late President Lungu, he was president of this country. Let's not underestimate that.
Who is the next of kin?
Let's not trivialize.
Who is the next of kin in this context of Mr. Lungu? It's the wife and children. So why do you want to impose yourselves as government as the next of kin?
President Lungu, as you said, was not an ordinary person.
No. Does it qualify for you to go and inspect his hair, his toes, his fingers?
If that were not the case, we would be hearing every day cases where the government, on behalf of the people of Zambia, want to authenticate a body.
We gotta go.
The question is, why is it happening in this particular case? It's because we are not dealing with an ordinary person. We are dealing with the president, and the government has a responsibility over that former president.
Let's assume they don't give you access to inspect. Then what?
I will not answer that question as if I'm the Attorney General, as if I'm one of those people who have that direct responsibility on behalf of the Zambians to do the right thing, even over the issues of the death of President Lungu. I will not be able to respond as such.
I need to ask you your personal question.
But what I pray is that things would be verified, including details, what could have happened. That was a president. So the
What
government
could have happened?
the-
You already know he was in hospital.
yes. But when you have somebody harmful, let's bring it to that level. When you have somebody harmful, when somebody dies and you're having this meeting.
Yes, let them bury.
Just a minute.
Then you can come and inspect. Talk about it. Somebody.
Just a minute. So when you have somebody harmful, I want to use this example. Somebody died in the hospital. And when somebody says, can you tell us if you're Bafwile? You can't say you know that he was in hospital. No.
Let me just
That
maybe
answer
pick
does
up
not suffice.
one call before we close. Just one call. Good evening and welcome to State of the Nation. Good evening and welcome to State of the Nation. Your name and where you're calling us from. Good evening.
Good evening.
Your name and where you're calling us from.
Thank you so much. This is Michelo Polika calling here in Lusaka.
Yes, Michelo, please go ahead.
I'm sure we are making contribution to the program that Father Frank Bwalya and Pastor are having now regarding the achievement of UPND since 2021.
That's correct.
I know one of the serious issues that we have discussed is the issue of energy crisis, and it is important to acknowledge that one of the hindrance of good citizenship is political alienation. And I could see from the both end that when we bring our political motives, it makes us not to become good citizens. The issue of crisis is the problem in the country, and we cannot give entire blame to the UPN government. We can really refer to the previous governments that have not invested because we are relying on hydropower, which we are facing a challenge. But I'm happy that the UPN government has put some initiatives that are clear, seeing that they are investing and attracting investors so that we are able to handle that crisis. And we believe that if the sitting president and the government continue with such motives, maybe one day we'll be able to resolve such kind of energy crisis. Then in terms of corruption, we talked about the FIC report. It is important to acknowledge that the sitting government, at least they are able to appreciate the report. If it is the previous government, we have said, we would have heard fit all those words. But what is important now is, as the moderator has mentioned, these things have been coming consistently for past 4 years. What is the government doing? And we'll be happy as citizens to see that such issues are addressed, because we are seeing millions of dollars leaving the country. And believe me, it's not an easy thing. And it requires the government to take bold decisions and resolve such kind of crisis. I hope those are the few words that I feel I can submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. We appreciate your call. Okay, I just thought I could pick up because the calls can't stop coming, and I just thought I should allow the callers. Can I pick one more?
Please go ahead.
So that we wrap up knowing that we involved the public. Good evening and welcome to State of the Nation. Your name and where you're calling us from.
Good evening to Pastor Mambwe.
Good evening. Thank you. Your name?
And your guest, Mr. Bwalya.
Good evening.
For some reason, I seem to see that the guest was not well prepared for this interview. Because if you look at the power crisis, ZESCO and ZESA in Zimbabwe, they are both buying water from the Zambezi Water Authority in equal measure. ZESA is providing 22 hours of power to their people in Zimbabwe. We are suffering 19 hours of load shedding. 19. Compared to what Father Bwalya was saying, well, he's not a father now, but compared to what he was saying between on PF, 4 to 8 hours, now we are suffering 19 hours. It is refusing to acknowledge that this is because they are selling power. At least acknowledge that there is something going on here. People are suffering. From the interview, I've seen that he's trivializing a lot of things. You know, this is serious. Thank you, Pastor Mambwe.
Thank you very much. I think we'll leave those two callers because
the reason Zimbabwe, which we didn't discuss, the reason Zimbabwe may not have a serious problem such as we have in terms of power and less load shedding, we need to understand the dynamics there in their energy sector, where they are getting power. Is it only from hydro, or they also have thermal and so on? We need to interrogate that, and the information is readily available. You can even find it on the web. The information is available. So you can't compare the situation that is in Zimbabwe and the situation in Zambia. You also have to look at the dynamics. What is the population there compared to here? So why am I speaking like that? Because he's trying to create the point that we all are using the Kariba Dam. And why is it that they have less load shedding there, we have more load shedding? That question is raising cannot be answered in a simple way to say simply because Zambia is selling the power it's generating, that's why we have more load shedding here. That is not true.
Right.
And what I request is that you need to bring experts. Because when I speak, even if I give figures, people would think that I'm speaking as a politician. Bring the experts to explain these things. Maybe people like the previous scholar would understand. The other thing I want to say to the previous scholar is that we are admitting that we have a problem, a huge problem of power deficit, and the president is not sleeping over this matter. You can see the interventions that are being put in place. So there is no issue of trying to trivialize this matter, no.
I need to ask you just one personal question as a leader, from an integrity and moral perspective as we go. Before you joined the UPND, on this platform, KBN, you were being interviewed by my former colleague, Paul Shingongo.
Yes.
You were on record, and I quote, you said, "We have a useless government in power and a useless president in power." On this program, I've sat with you, you have vehemently defended the government and the president whom you called useless. How do you sleep and reconcile with yourself that in one breath you call this government useless? Today, they have done so much. We have a government that is doing this. What has changed? Is it you that has changed, or it's the government that has become good?
We don't have in the scriptures somewhere in those epistles that St. Paul wrote, where he was asked a question similar to what you have asked me. You were persecuting Christians. Now you are preaching the gospel. I'm using this example because you are coming from that background as well. Now you are preaching the gospel, preaching salvation and so on. Do you sleep when you go home? I think if this was documented, the answer of St. Paul would have been, I sleep, because of having known my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So I go home and sleep, knowing this country is in the right hands. Then how do you make of what I said? That was less than 2 years of UPND being in government. Which government can change the lives of the people within 2 years?
So you judge them
these
too early.
extremes, just a minute.
You judge them too early?
Just a minute. These statements, when you are in the opposition, are made which are quite extreme, driving a point which at the end of the day
you regret.
Just a minute. Not that you regret, but you know of course that it's not possible.
Do you regret
it's not possible for a government to change the lives of the people within 2 years.
Do you regret?
So I'm not in the opposition.
Do you regret calling the government you are serving today a useless government?
This government is useful. This government is doing a lot to change the lives of the people. Talk about fixing the mining sector. That is translating partly, in fact to a greater extent, the bullish kwacha that we have, which is also partly driving prices down.
Only after
a president that is very hardworking.
Only after you joined them. That's when you began to see the right things.
Time also. Because as I told you, that statement was made on KBN, less than 2 years of the UPND being in government. Now, a good bricklayer, they would raise a corner. After raising the corner, then they put in the builder's line. Then things begin to move fast. Even somebody who is less experienced as a bricklayer can do the job. And HH has been carefully raising these corners. We're at a stage, no, but and things are moving very fast.
Wonderful.
Very fast. And the differences are there for the people to see. Of course, not everything.
Yeah.
Not everything has been achieved. More remains to be done. And no one can doubt the commitment of this
Thanks
government.
for tuning in to JQ News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the latest updates on tech, politics, and everything in between. Until next time, stay cool.